The Channel Mom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Brought to you by Pediatric Dental Group of Colorado, creating positive and rewarding dental visits for kids of all ages since 1977.
Hey, welcome back to the Channel Mom Show, where we are celebrating moms, families. I imagine most of us are very grateful for our families this morning. We are here right on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. I am your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt. We have a fabulous author in the house this morning helping us sort through some of the stuff that occurred yesterday. And also, we're going to talk about his book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. And Shelley, during the break, you made a great point. Cecil, I want you to hear this point that Shelley, my co-host here, made as we were in the break. When people are going through this, Cecil has been very clear to say, don't hit them with a bunch of lessons and in your own uncomfortableness. Don't say, well, this is how you should look at it, or it's all going to work out, or there's always a silver lining, or even scripture, he says, even though eventually that can be helpful. He says, just listen and just hug them and just hold them and let it be okay. And Shelley, you said that when somebody's uncomfortable and comes up and tries to come up with all these things to make themselves feel better, that actually when the person says to you, I don't know why this happened, I can't stand it, I have no hope, why did this happen? What did you say, Shelley?
Well, the answer is you don't know either. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that you don't know. It matters that you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you agree with that, Cease? Did you hear Shelley?
I think that even that's comforting for you just to simply say, I hurt for you. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah. We both, Shelley and I, have had several friends lose loved ones here in the last year or two. And it's true. I just had to stand in the bedroom, in the living room with these women and just say, I don't know what to say, and just hug them and just be by their side for weeks, Mm-hmm. That's all you can do. All righty. We're going to get into 90 Minutes in Heaven. That is your best-selling book, yes?
Oh, well, I had another one that's about the same level. It's called Gifted Hands with the Dr. Ben Carson story.
Yes.
It's been out since 1992, and it's been made into a film with Cuba Gooding Jr., but it's sold about the same number of copies.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you. You are a prolific writer. I happen to have read 90 Minutes in Heaven, and you know what, Cease, especially on a day like today, there are people out here that are, in Radioland that say, I can't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy the simplistic explanation of him seeing heaven. They say it's brain chemicals and things like that. Of course, when I read it, because I'm a believer, I believed his account, and it's very convincing. Tell us a little bit about Don Piper's experience and how it impacted you.
Well, first, Don Piper contacted me several years after his story. He was afraid people wouldn't believe him. Mm-hmm. And when he first told me, I didn't believe him either. Now, I'm a serious Christian, but I thought it was a near-death experience. People have those in the hospital and things like and that kind of thing. So I said, I'm not interested in writing about a near-death experience. And Don kept saying, listen, I really died. And I kept thinking, yeah, of course you did, Don. I'm pretty honest about this. So finally, but he just felt that I was the man he wanted to write his book, so he just kept after me. And finally, he said something that convinced me. It was this. This is documented. 4 EMTs examined him. All 4 of them said there were no vital signs.
Yeah.
And he was there at least 90 minutes. Probably was a little longer, but he said, if the brain is deprived of oxygen about 4 minutes, you're pretty well finished. 6 minutes, you're a total vegetable. There's no resuscitation. Also, if his heart had been beating during any of that time, he would have bled to death. Right. There was no serious blood loss despite his various wounds. There were no internal injuries. That's when I said, oh, okay, I can buy that.
Yeah, and he was crushed. I mean, they could barely pry him free of all this. I mean, and he had years of pain and still has pain because his body was just crushed. And I did read that the EMT said he's absolutely dead. And for more than an hour, they thought he was dead.
Oh, yeah. And he has had 34 surgeries.
Yeah, he remains in pain. So tell people today, especially people that do want to grasp onto this, a little bit about Don's vision of heaven.
Well, so you call it vision. That's why I call it a near-death experience. Don felt he had really, literally gone to heaven.
Yes, I said that wrong. So go ahead and talk
about
that.
Well, it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, it really doesn't matter whether it is a vision or you're actually literally there. And there is a biblical account in the New Testament of the Apostle Paul who went to heaven, or because of paradise or the third heaven. So it's not unheard of. However, I think the real issue for most people isn't whether Don Piper really went to heaven or didn't. I think the real issue is, what about me?
Yes.
Well, what happens to me when I die? And what I think happens to most people is they're not so much afraid of what happens after death. I think the big issue is they don't want to die. The dying process is what really is very difficult for most of us in our culture.
Sure.
What I just try to say to them is this: look, if you know you've lived the best life you can, and for me that means following Jesus Christ, that's my prejudice, then that should not be your concern. Your concern is to live life fully and to the best right now.
Right. Well, can I just be honest and say I found what he recounted on the pages of that book and what you helped him recount very comforting and very hopeful and beautiful, stunning. I mean, he could hardly put it into words, the things he saw and the comfort he received.
The other thing that's very interesting is that there are two big the positive responses. There are a few that are negative. That's okay. But the two positive responses, one of them is exactly what you said, the comfort of heaven and knowing everything's going to be okay after you die. The other one was about two-thirds of the book is about his recovery and the chronic pain.
Yes.
And what I get from people is, at last somebody understands what it feels like to hurt every single day.
Yes, I have heard that too. I have a friend who said that. I found that part of the book depressing, but I also thought it must have been cathartic for him and also a good life lesson to say, I still hurt and yet I still believe what I went through was real and I still have faith in the God that I saw when I was in heaven. I mean, that takes a lot, day after day, to be in agony and still hold on to that faith. And
that shows you the reality of what happened to him. If it had not been that real, he would have given it up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What was the one thing, can I just say, and I don't want to reduce this to something superficial, but what was the one thing that struck you about his account of heaven that touched you?
Well, the fact that it was something so special to him, so sacred, that he didn't talk about it for nearly 2 years. Part of it, of course, was he was afraid nobody would understand. But more than that, it was this feeling of he was afraid it would dilute the power, the effect of it if he talked about it.
Yeah.
And he's realized that it didn't do that. But yeah, I can understand it. This was so powerful that he didn't want to lose the impact in any way.
No, he didn't want to make it a superficial, just sort of a news story account. He wanted it to remain as sacred and holy and beautiful as it was to him. And see, I have a feeling I know why he picked you.
Why?
because you're real and maybe even a little skeptical, and he needed somebody like that to back up his account and say, I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to put it out there. Even though I'm a realist, even though I'm somebody who came at this a little bit with skepticism, he needed somebody like that to make it more authentic and more believable, frankly.
Well, I like to think that way, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he chose you, see. Shelley, do you have any questions about 90 Minutes in Heaven?
Is Don Piper the only person you've talked to that's had a heaven experience? Have you talked to other people?
I have not. Don has. Don has told me on a couple of occasions that he's met about 30 people who had experiences very much like his. Now, there have been a lot of what we call the near-death experiences, where they've gone through a tunnel, they've seen the light, and so on. Don never had any of that. His was death to immediately in heaven, and he's met about 30 people with similar experiences. I have not, or at least they haven't told me.
Sure, but let's get real here, Cece, since this is what you're an expert at. I know tons of people that don't believe in heaven and don't believe in angels and things like that. You and I both happen to be Christians, so we do believe it and we want to believe it, but it does take faith. And there are days, if any of us are honest, that we say, what if there's not a heaven? You know, we all grapple with that, and we grapple with our faith in God. So did this strengthen your faith to have him recount for you that he saw the God that you believe in, that he saw the place where he resides?
I probably should tell you yes, but honestly it didn't, because that just hasn't been an issue for me. Look, here's my position. I have a good life. I like my life. Mm-hmm. This is a great, I just enjoy my life. I've learned to accept tragedy and hardship. I don't like them, but I've learned to accept them. So, I've got a great life now. And I know it can only be better after I die. Even if there's nothing after I die, I believe there is, but even if there is nothing, wow, I've had a good life right now anyway.
Well, you're a positive man. Did you know that?
Well, I guess I am, and it's not. And this isn't some phony, positive thinking kind of thing. I'm talking out of experience. I came from a highly dysfunctional family.
Yeah, you were abused.
Oh yeah, sexually abused, physically abused. My dad and brothers were alcoholics. But I think this is why I call myself a serious Christian, is because I grasp grace and finally understood how good life can be. Yeah,
you don't stay mad at God for the tragedy. You accept it and you embrace the good. And there's.
Well, see, I think no matter who you are, whether you have any religion or not, I truly believe that if you're really open and honest, after you've gone through things, you look back and you say, I hated it. I don't ever want it to happen again, but I've learned so much. Or, you know what, that changed the course of my life, and I'm a lot better today than I would have been if I hadn't gone through that. Yeah,
it's the truth. And nobody wants to go through things. Not one person says, yeah, please let me go through that. But after the fact, you're right. So many people are willing to say.
And because we have gone through these things, we can feel compassion. I think the most difficult people to deal with are those who don't know what hurt and pain and agony is.
Yeah, because they can't draw from themselves to offer compassion. Cecil Murphey, it's been a joy to talk to you today. If anyone would like to win a copy of his wonderful book, I really have enjoyed this book, just so you know. It's got great little bits of advice, but not too pushy, which I appreciate, Cecil. Making Sense When Life Doesn't, The Secrets of Thriving in Tough Times. Cecil, thank you very much for being with us. Any last words?
Well, it's just this, that life is good, and we can make it good. Or we can decide that life is bad and just feel miserable. You've got a choice.
Yeah, we do have a choice. That's very true. And, hey, if people want to order your book, how do they get a hold of it?
Oh, any bookstore should have it. You can go online to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but it's readily available.
Okay. Thank you so much. God bless you, Cecil. Nice to chat with you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.